Welcome back. I am so excited you are here. My name is Claudie Pascal and I am your host. And I am going to be sharing with you all today an introduction to why I even am pursuing financial freedom and what the journey has been like for me and my husband thus far. So there's so many ways I could begin this story, but I think the best place to start would be choosing my career for dentistry. So I was not one who grew up aspiring to be a doctor, let alone even get into the healthcare field. I just knew I wanted to get good grades, go to college, and get a job and survive. Surviving is literally what I saw my parents do. So growing up, not having much, I had the mindset that I did not want to continue living a life where I did not have much, where I lacked money. And when, by the grace of God, I had kids, I did not want to have to subject them to also living in a way where they did not have money, or we could not have money for certain things, or we had to be careful with every expense and make sure it was necessary. I didn't want that. However, the funny thing is, when it came down to choosing a career, I was not even thinking about a salary, y'all. I was just, at the time, I just was like, man, I just want to find the position that's going to allow me to do the greatest service possible. I just want to serve you, God, and I just want you to use me to whatever the greatest potential is that I have. And choosing dentistry was something that happened because of my experience at a free health clinic that my husband was helping do at the time. But as I was continuing my training, I began to realize the expenses of dentistry. And, I was like, I want dentistry to be a way that I give and not something I rely on for my source of income to live. I want dentistry to be my way of giving and not my source of living. That's what I said. That meant, though, if I'm going to go around trying to provide free care and be volunteering my time, I'm going to need to have money coming from somewhere. Okay? If I don't want to rely on my career for my money, I needed it to come from somewhere. And I remember talking to my husband about that, and my husband being a natural, entrepreneur, always into business and money, that is his thing. That's his hobby, legit hobby. It's just business, numbers, money. So when I told him that, he was like, oh, you pretty much want financial freedom. And I was like, okay, whatever that is, if it's going to allow me to, serve as a dentist and not have to rely on it for income, and I can be able to serve populations who cannot afford my care and know that them not being able to afford my care is not going to jeopardize my ability to afford my care for myself and my expenses, then yes, I want it. And so we committed to finding out how can we achieve financial freedom. And pretty much when it came to trying to achieve financial freedom, what we wanted was to be able to have enough passive income covering our needs and our wants, right? So everything we needed and everything we wanted that to be covered by passive income so that we would not have to be working full-time jobs and relying on our career to provide that income. And so we was like, yes, this is it. Let's find other ways to generate income, to make money so that we don't have to work full-time if we don't want to. Even if we work full-time, we can take time off if we want to go serve. And we could even make enough money to where we can be sponsoring these free clinics. We could be the ones saying, hey, we'll cover the expenses that's needed. We'll provide the equipment. And hey, if we can't show up and do the work ourselves, we could have money to make the work possible for even more than just dentistry. Whatever a person may need for their health, for their care, for their life, we can be conduits of good because we have the money and we'll also have the time. That was our goal, time and money to live and give abundantly. So how practical was it to start? As we were creeping up on 2019, which is the year that I would be graduating from dental school and the year that my husband would be starting residency, we decided, okay, we know that the residency is going to be 4 to 6 years long, depending on where my husband would match. So knowing this, one thing we knew for sure is that we did not want to be paying rent for 4 to 6 years. We said, look, if we're aiming for financial freedom and creating wealth, we're going to have to start strategizing how we're spending our money. And being that living expenses is one of the greatest expenses in every American's budget, we want to start thinking about how could we address that biggest component of our budget to make sure it didn't jeopardize our financial goals. So we decided, instead of renting for the next 4 to 6 years, we wanted to buy a home so that we would be making payments towards a mortgage, which would be going towards our asset and equity that we would eventually be able to tap into later. So we knew we wanted to get a house, and we realized there was something called house hacking. And what house hacking meant was that we would get a house with the intent of renting out these spaces in a house so that the income we got from the rentals would be able to cover some, if not all, of our mortgage. So at first I was like, in our space, we have to share our space and whatnot. So, long story short, we found out, no, we don't have to be renting out our immediate spaces. We could get a multifamily. And I was like, okay, great. That's perfect. We have our space. We're renting out the other space. And that was initially our goal. However, we unfortunately ended up not being able to go the multifamily route. We went the route of a single family home. But this single family home is one we wanted to make sure would be able to allow us to maximize our rental income potential. So we made sure when we were searching for properties, we tried to find properties that had either a floor plan that was favorable for tapping into short-term rental income, or maybe had an additional unit or in-law suite that we could use for short-term rental income. Why short-term rental income? Because of the high margin of profit that it provides. You can make so much more from short-term rental income than you would from longer-term rentals. So we thankfully were able to find a home that had an in-law suite with its own private access. And once we saw that, even though the home was looking like it was the way it was when it was built in the 80s, we said, we'll take it. We'll put in the renovations. This additional unit right here, this is it. This is what's going to help us to really be able to reach our financial goals. And mind you, another reason why this matters so much to us as well, like trying to strategically find a way to minimize our expenses, is because my husband would be, if he was to match in a program that include medical school, that would mean that he would have at least 2 to 3 years of not getting a stipend because he would be in school and, as a matter of fact, be racking up debt, which meant I would be the one carrying the load in terms of bringing in the income to cover our expenses. So we wanted to make sure as much as possible, I would not be stressed out with trying to be responsible for creating the income, especially because I knew I did not want to do dentistry 5 days a week. And I really wanted to have the option of teaching, which we all know doesn't pay much. So getting back to the house, we wanted to make sure we strategically found a single family home, since that was the route we was going to have to go. We wanted to find a single family home that would still allow us to maximize our rental income potential. So we thankfully found our home. We had our game plan. We was going to do short-term rental in that private entrance in-law suite. And then we were going to rent out the other rooms in our house to students and traveling professionals. And that right there is what gave me the peace of mind to say, okay, yes, I can do this. Because when I was in college, I had roommates. I had to share my space. And while it was not favorable, it worked because I was able to have my livings covered and I wasn't spending a lot of money on it. And while getting out of school and being a whole doctor and having my own space was an amazing idea, I was more focused and driven by the idea of pursuing those financial freedom goals. Like the idea of creating the income that would allow me to be able to not have to be in a position where everything relied on my active income earning, and that would allow me to put more money into the investments that will ultimately make me free. Those things for me meant so much more than just giving up my space. So what now? Well, the rentals that we do in our home to students and travel nurses, that really honestly is super passive, but the short-term rental is what's more on the active side. And we have been working to ramp up our systems, get things more automated, and create a team with virtual assistants and others who could help us not need to be active anymore in the business. Thankfully, that is going well. And you guys, I have to say that even though that was always our initial plan, something happened that really pushed us to start doing it even sooner. And it's something that I honestly hope none of you will have to go through. And if you have had to go through it, I'm sure you will understand. But if it does happen, it is my hope that in hearing my story and listening to this podcast, you will be able to be in a position that we are in where there is an option to do what is necessary and what is best, and not compromise who and what truly matters to you. Here's what happened. So I want to keep it really short and just get straight to the point by saying I pretty much came to the point where the endometriosis that I had been diagnosed with had progressed to a severity that made it extremely difficult for me to not only keep up with my side hustles, but also with work itself. I'm talking about being at work in the middle of treatment or in the middle of an exam and all of a sudden getting a burst of sharp, excruciating pelvic pain, which many times did not go away right away, even with the pain medication, or it being a hard day to start work because of the fact that the night before I barely slept because I was going at it with the pain. And it honestly was not only excruciating physically, but it began to have its toll emotionally and mentally. I literally felt like life as I knew it was just slipping right before my eyes. And while I know that we can't predict things, control things, things don't always go as planned, the way my pain was increasing in intensity and frequency, I felt like nothing was going to be able to go as planned at all. Like, let's not even talk about the fact that my future goals of children was even on the line, you guys. Like, I was like, wow, I don't have the energy to be able to keep up with my side hustles to help with my financial goals. I am struggling to keep up with work, which allows me to serve my patients and allow me to fulfill the passion that I spent so many years training for. I'm also losing my ability to get income from this work that I do that is necessary for my financial freedom goals, which are necessary for my long-term goals, such as kids and service and everything. It's like everything, you guys, was just everything was connected to everything. And the fact that my ability to perform was going downhill. Everything was literally on the line. And I had to face the reality that there was no way I was going to be able to continue doing all the things that I was doing and put in the time and energy that was necessary for my health, to figure out how to manage this pain and how to make sure that what was going on was not going to progress to the point that it was going to lead to other complications later on. I was fighting so hard to not have to think about stepping away from my job in clinical dentistry. But you guys, I had to do it. And after going through, making myself feel better about my patients and their care and saying, okay, yeah, somebody's going to take care of them and I had to take care of me, there was still this other aspect of, man, the finances, like our financial goals, right? Like my husband's in medical school. He not making no money. He getting more debt. How we going to keep working towards our goals? But you guys, what helped me to be able to peacefully make that decision to leave work was realizing two things. One was the fact that my ability to fulfill my passion to serve was not limited to my career. And even more specifically, my desire to serve through dentistry was not limited to clinical care. And the other thing was realizing that we had creative passive income that would be able to minimize how big of an impact me stepping away from my job would have on us financially. My husband was in medical school, still is, and in no way was going to be able to pick up a job or something to help carry us. And we realized that, hey, it's going to be hard for a little bit, but we will be okay. We just need to strategize and find ways to multiply the passive income that we created so that I would be able to put in the time that I need to take care of my health. And you guys, when I tell you, I could not be more like, I don't even know how to describe how I felt, but I was just like, wow. We started working on something with the hopes of creating the security that would allow us to have the option to serve how we want to serve, to take care of our loved ones when we need to be able to spend as much time as we need to on our family and do whatever was necessary without the constraints of finances. Like we literally started working on that, thinking that it's something that was going to come later, but it actually ended up coming sooner. And the fact that we started made the world of a difference in us being able to not only choose what was most important at that time, which was my ability to focus on my health so that I could be able to get back to the things that I wanted to do and also be able to pursue all the things that matter to me in the future, such as my kids. But it also allowed us to be able to have something that we could multiply to further progress us on this journey to financial freedom. I don't know where you are in life, in your journey, and my hope is that you are not in as much of a difficult place as I was in a couple of months ago. But if you are there, and in case you do end up there, it is my hope that just listening to this will help you to realize that it is not impossible to secure the finances that will allow you to put in the time and money that you need for whoever or whatever it is that is more important than that income source job that you have. You are not too young to start either. You are not too young. You guys, we are not too young to start creating that financial freedom, to start creating those incomes that will help us to have the financial freedom, the time, the money, and the options to choose whatever it is that is more important to us. We've spent so much time and money, okay? We've spent so much of our lives pursuing our careers so that we can serve. And I want us to realize that we also have to make sure we put in some time and money to pursue the wealth, the financial security that will allow us to also be able to show up and take care of ourselves and our loved ones and whoever and whatever it is that is also equally, if not more important than our careers. If you are asking yourself, where do I even begin? What is this whole house hacking thing? What am I going to do with my debt? Those are all good questions. Those are important questions. And I want you to know that I have answers for you. I was in the same place. We were in the same place when we were considering starting our financial freedom journey. We had those same questions, but you guys, we stepped out and took action to start moving. Even though we didn't have all the answers, we took the knowledge that we had and we took the passion and the desire that we had for our lives and our legacies. And we turned that into motion, into moving forward with our journey. And I want you to just sit with that. I want you to sit with that fact that you most likely will not be able to start until you commit to the value that starting this journey will bring to you. You have to realize and decide that this is important, that your life, that fulfillment that you seek, that service that you want to give on your own terms, that legacy that you want to create, you have to realize that it is important and that you need to start investing in what's going to allow you to focus and have all of those things. And I'm telling you, when you commit to that, you're going to realize that everything else I'm going to share with you and talk to you about makes sense. You're going to start to realize that this is possible, and you're going to start to realize that you can do it. So I want you to think about that and let it sink in and know that we're going to answer those questions that you have. It's coming up. We're going to talk about all of those things and more. We're going to get you to have the mindset that you need and to have the resources and the knowledge that you need to be able to start your journey to financial freedom, to start creating that wealth and start positioning yourself to be able to enjoy that fulfilling life and create that powerful legacy that you want and that you deserve. I'm so glad you listened in and that you're here, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.